Vítám vás u UP 2021, Business pro společnost Fóra udržitelného podnikání, které o trendech, které bychom měli reflektovat dnes pro své udržitelné
We'll be speaking about trends that we should reflect on today for a sustainable tomorrow. This is a forum that every year is organized by the Business for Society, which is the biggest alliance of companies that promote sustainable and responsible development. UP 2021 is organized under the auspices of the Mayor of Prague, Mr. Hřib. Also many thanks to the ambassadors and partners, Tesco, Vodafone, and Orlen Unipetrol. And just for you to know where we are in reality, of course you are virtually sitting wherever by your notebooks, but we are physically in Hotel Hilton Prague. We also have a media partner, E15. So what is UP 2021? UP is the biggest sectoral forum, a discussion forum for companies that want to talk about sustainable business, transformation of businesses, innovations, dialogues with cities and so forth. The main topic of this year's forum are green development, green challenges, and sustainable and responsible business. So we'll be speaking about how to do sustainable business during the pandemic of COVID-19 and how we could better cooperate. So why should we talk about this? I believe that we all can agree that the impact on people of what is happening simply cannot be denied. The European Union decided to decrease its emissions by 30% by 2030 and to become carbon neutral by 2050. So there's a huge transformation in front of us when it comes to industry. And of course, in addition to that, we have COVID-19, the pandemic. So are companies and societies ready for the changes and transformations? And what is their strategy and how do they perceive all this from the position of CSR managers? Everyone will be invited, of course, to actively participate in our discussion during this morning. And those of you that connected through the virtual studio, you should have all supportive elements there, information about the forum, the program, the description of speakers and so forth. If you're not connected through the studio, you can connect through YouTube. You can also use the Sli.do application to ask questions. So these are the technicalities, and let me remind you once again, sustainability and responsibility, these are the main topics that we'll be speaking about. So I would now like to ask to show the first video, the head of the European Commission representation in the Czech Republic, Mrs. Dana Kovaříková. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks to Business for Society for inviting me. First of all, let me ask a question. What is a sustainable business? It's a business, it's a company that does not concentrate only on its economic objectives, but also has a sustainable mission. We're mainly speaking about a sustainable business in relation to environment, but it also relates to your own people, your own employees. Sustainability, it's a modern word. Western companies are quite developed when it comes to sustainability, be it their footprint, reducing their emissions and so forth, or providing services and products without generating emissions or waste. Sustainability, it's a trend that we can see in the European Union as well. We're trying to move away from a plastic waste, and it's a trend that is spreading across the EU. We're trying to use e-cars as much as possible, and the regulation on the EU level will lead to the e-mobility development across the whole of Europe. Sustainable and socially responsible companies also focus on the principle of diversity and including various disadvantaged groups. We support, or the European Union supports all of this through various programs of the EU. There are also sustainable development goals, neutrality or renewable energy sources goals. We also have a new renovation wave when it comes to construction, the so-called new European Bauhaus, which should be a new trend in the architecture. And all of that is happening under the European Green Deal, which is an umbrella strategy. It's basically a technical revolution. It will impact all of us. So the steps that we take to combat climate change will pay back, will live in a better environment, healthier environment, will innovate our processes. There will be new opportunities. Of course, those companies that will start the transition earlier will have an advantage. European green technologies become an export article, an important export article, and EU is a leader in this. When we committed to carbon neutrality, we were followed by even China or Korea and other countries. And the so-called taxonomy for a sustainable financing will probably become a standard even outside of Europe, just as we've seen with GDPR. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being interested in sustainable business. It is important. Thank you, and I hope you'll have a fruitful discussion. So, there are many topics that we'll talk about during today, but what about European companies? Let me give the floor to Stefan Crets, an executive director of CSR Europe, which is a European partner organization of Business for Society. CSR Europe is an alliance of more than 10,000 companies that focus on sustainable business. So, Mr. Crets, the floor is yours.
How do you personally see the current key trends for sustainable business in Europe?
So, yeah, I think there are several trends at the same time playing, but of course the first one is, I would say, recovery and care. This is about how do we rebuild back after or during COVID already, and especially also during COVID, how do we make sure that we care enough about people? That's one thing. The second trend is, of course, green transformation, tackling climate change, tackling emissions, etc. But together, and COVID showed that lesson very much, is about how do you do that in an inclusive way? How do you make it in a just transition way? How do you make sure that people do not get excluded because the jobs they are jobs in an older economy? How do you bring them to a new economy? If I may give an example, coming from the automotive sector, if we all want electric vehicles over time, well, electric vehicles require less people to make them than internal combustion engines. How are we preparing already that the people who are now making internal combustion engines can do different things in 3, 5, 10 years? Because it will but are we preparing is one of the key. So the second trend is the green transformation, as I said, green transformation, but together with inclusion. And then you have all, related to that, you have all the specific agendas. As I said, emissions and climate targets, circular economy and plastics, corporate governance and transparency, the skills agenda, which is linked to that, the due diligence of supply chain. So there is, the trend is it became mainstream, and especially for Europe, it became a policy direction. The European policy, but also the national rebuild policies are sustainability, are green, are digital, and require a careful but drastic business transformation. And how to do that in an inclusive way, I would think is a very challenge. It's a big challenge for companies to cope with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also about the cooperation. What role and significance do you see in cooperation among businesses and also on the CSR Europe platform to achieve sustainable business models?
So I think cooperation and collaboration are a little bit fashion words. Now it's time to, we talk with CSR Europe, we talk about it since like 10 or 15 years, but to do real, now it's time to make it practical and to act with impact. And we see also in our membership, which has large companies and mainly large multinationals, they start to understand as well that without practical collaboration, they cannot do by themselves. Let me give you an example. Again, I'm sorry, from the automotive sector. If you want batteries for your electric vehicles, you need for the moment, and let's see how that evolves, cobalt. Cobalt is sourced in the Democratic Republic of Congo. There are a number of issues related to that, child labor, but also artisanal mining in very difficult circumstances. Even big car companies cannot change that, but they need the cobalt. So if they want to change, they will need to collaborate. And that's why they make things like the Global Battery Alliance, where they try to go and see how can we, through collaboration, do something practical in Congo. But they will have to engage from within that group also with the Congolese government, with the European Union government, with the Americans, the Chinese, etc. So the collaboration needs to be very practical, and they understand, I think, companies that you cannot do alone. So that is one thing. Also because they understand it's not, sustainability is not about communication. It's not anymore about an add-on. It's about their business, because there are also geopolitical elements that play there. So I think collaboration will be a key element, and that's why, as you know, with CSR Europe, we developed a leadership model, and that has three components. One is this business transformation starts with what transformation is a company doing by itself. How does it define its purpose? What kind of sustainability management system does it set up? How does it link its financial performance to it? What is the corporate culture? So an individual company. But the second element of our leadership model is collaboration. How do you engage with others to deliver the impact you need? And it's because of self-interest that you need to do that. If you want to tackle deforestation, for example, in an agricultural supply chain, or in a rubber supply chain, or in the mineral supply chain, if you are in the electronic sector or in the automotive sector, you will have to work together with others to tackle that. So collaboration is the second element. But the third element is also advocacy. How do you engage with policymakers and with civil society to do it together? Also, that is a newer understanding, is that NGOs or civil society are not on the other side of the place. It's about how you do it together and about how you shape an environment where this sustainability plays an important role.
What is the COVID impact on sustainability ambitions of European business in terms of achieving carbon neutrality, committing to Green Deal, as well as SDGs? Well,
unfortunately, and I must say unfortunately, because COVID is dreadful, but unfortunately it increased the attention for sustainability a lot. I think never before than in 2020 there were so many companies that announced their zero emission targets by 2050 or 2030 or 2040, whatever. Never so many companies did. And even more important, the financial world, the banks, the investors, the pension funds, the rating agencies, started integrating much more sustainability elements, Green Deal elements or environmental elements, climate elements, into the way they decide on investments. And they start to understand that fossil fuels might be more challenging. They start issuing green bonds. Some companies started issuing sustainability bonds. So that is remarkable that in 2020, which was a very difficult year, that so many companies started defining sustainability targets for themselves in a much louder. but that also the investor community started saying, we are going to look at that. And then the last element, the third, is what I said earlier, is this element of inclusion. How can we make sure that we keep the people on board, that we take care? I think maybe, and let's hope it stays, that COVID has learned us the importance of caring. And it sounds a little bit soft, but I think if I see companies like NL and others, Solvay and others, taking care of their employees, other companies taking care, mining companies, of their miners who were in lockdown, etc., it goes beyond what you can expect from a company. And they started learning the importance also of keeping your the people, be it your employee or your customer, close and at a good level of well-being. So I think it has it had a catalytic effect on how sustainability is perceived. But I'm optimistic in a way.
A z evropské úrovně skočíme rovnou do Česka na lokální úroveň.
So from the European level, we'll jump back to the Czech Republic, the Czech level, and we'll speak about how sustainability and green ambitions can be viewed, can be seen in individual projects. I'd like to welcome Ondřej Kolář, the mayor of Prague 6. Welcome. Good morning to you too. My first question is very specific. How does Prague 6 cooperate with your local entities and players to make your Prague 6 greener? So let me split it into a number of topics. Well, first of all, we cooperate with the universities we have in Prague 6, be it the Czech Technical University, or in Prague Suchdol, we have the Czech Agricultural University. So we cooperate with them and we give them a chance for applied science, for applied research. For example, we provide locations for them, a piece of land, for example, to try out various projects, for example, smart city elements or green walls and so forth. We also cooperate with the Prague Transport Company in terms of, for example, what are the best greens, the best plants to plant inside Prague. We also cooperate with other companies on various projects of making Prague greener through various green walls or gardens and so forth. So individual parts of Prague have limited possibilities, but we're grateful for that either. We focus mainly on cooperation with universities.
Okay, so these were the positive aspects. Now maybe you would like to say a few words about problems you have been tackling with over the past years, some challenges and what you want to do about them. Yes, definitely. We have been dealing with some challenges, and one of the biggest challenges is people themselves, citizens themselves. Every time you come up with a new idea, you always have to discuss it with our citizens, because not always everybody is happy with what you come up with. You may have an impression that you have a really good idea, a positive idea. However, the people are not always happy about it. So one of our objectives is to learn how to communicate better the topics and the issues to our people. This is one of our tasks in Prague 6. What happened over the past few years is that we've seen a major increase of distrust towards the city council. And unfortunately, this concerns the greening project as well. So one of the objectives we have as the Cities Council Prague 6 is to communicate better, to present better our projects. For instance, projects for the retention of rainwater certainly doesn't mean that you want to build many new houses and have new development projects, but you have to explain it to the people what the project is about. So people really know what is your aim. Yes, thank you. Now, greening projects and sustainability is often linked to the use of new innovative technology. So let me ask you, in Prague 6, do you have some new, maybe digital projects that will promote sustainability in your area? Yeah. Well, I must say that in our coalition we have a very new, very dynamic young vice mayor, Mr. Starek, who is a great fan of new smart technologies. He managed to save a smart bench that was installed in our district 3 years ago, but unfortunately it didn't work very well and the plants were slowly dying. So we are trying to use new technology. We are trying to use new technology in such a way that we, for example, know how often we should water the plants. Now, as you probably know, in Prague we have to use good quality drinkable water even for watering the plants. So that's why we try to install some automatic systems with, well, how to explain it, with some sort of little brains or little automatic systems that can prevent the waste of water, for example. So it is all these little details that help you save the environment and also save some money. Yes, but as you know, the devil is in the detail very often, and all these details get together and come up with something big. Now, what is your attitude to greening projects? What do you see the role of public money, of private money, and maybe EU funding, in your opinion? Yeah, we are trying to use the EU funding as much as possible in as many sectors as possible. Recently, we were discussing some projects with the Czech Agricultural University. We were talking about projects involving green elements. In my opinion, the public administration is here to deal with public affairs. Now, the private sector should cooperate with businesses, and the public sector, the public administration, should support them. We are trying to do as much as possible. We are trying to cooperate mainly with universities. Now, we also see a lot of private companies applying for public funding for some projects related to this. Unfortunately, we haven't done as much as we could yet, maybe also due to the COVID situation, which has been here for more than a year. But we really should try to do more to involve the private sector more. The Prague 6 district is one of the greenest districts in Prague. We are really trying to take care of our green areas. However, I really think there is still a possibility to do
Pane starosto,
more.
děkuji vám moc za váš
Thank
čas
you
a za
very
váš
much,
rozhovor a přeji
Mayor.
hodně štěstí
Thank you for
na
your
Praze 6.
time
Díky.
and good luck with your projects in Prague 6. Thank you.
A já se nyní do režie zeptám, jestli máme na lince
let
pana
me
Víta
check
Šimrala,
whether
radního
we
a
have
zastupitele
here with
hlavního
us
města
Mr.
Prahy.
Vít
Máme,
Šimral,
výborně.
the councillor
Vítám vás,
and
pane
member
radní, já
of
vás
the
krátce
board of
představím.
Prague.
Kromě
Yes,
zastupitelství a
he
funkce
should be
radního
with
jste
us,
i
which is
členem ve výboru pro
excellent.
evropské
Now, you are also a
záležitosti,
member of the
hlavní
Committee for
komisi
European
hlavního města Prahy. A jak je
Affairs.
důležité,
You are
také
also a
komisi pro
member of the
restrukturalizaci
Committee
pražské
for
ekonomiky.
Restructuring of
Vítejte
Prague
mezi námi.
Economy, if I say it correctly. So let me welcome you here. Good morning. And I have a clear question for you. What objectives do you have in Prague in terms of sustainable development, and what is your deadline? Yeah, we have some ambitious objectives, always in line with the national and European framework. Now, the full One of our objectives is the full decarbonization of Prague by 2050. And then we have a midterm objective to reduce CO2 emissions by 40% by the year 2030. We have been preparing some strategic documents to help us achieve these goals. One of the main plans that we should follow, and hopefully it should be approved by April, unless there will be some other problems related to COVID. So this main document will be the climate plan. And this will outline
Sám jste
the main
říkal, že je to
pillars, the
ambiciozní,
main
tak
milestones.
ptám se, jakým způsobem
Okay,
se
you've
to daří
said this was a
naplňovat,
rather
jestli nějakým
ambitious plan.
způsobem
So let
ovlivnila
me ask you,
pandemická
have you
krize.
managed to achieve all your plans, all your deadlines, and what is the impact of the pandemic, COVID pandemic? Well, yes, of course, the COVID pandemic has a major impact on these objectives. However, we still have some leeway, and when we do not manage to achieve certain objectives within the deadline, we can always try to use other tools to help us with the achievement. Now, the climate plan has been drafted in a rather clever way, and there are several options, A, B, C, D, E. There are parts related to greening, to drinking water, to efficiency of buildings, the new infrastructure related mainly to school buildings, to school facilities. We plan to use as much as possible water energy or solar energy on our schools. Then we have some other objectives related to recycling of waste, to reduce the production of waste as such. Another area is the area of transport. Here we aim to reduce the usage of fossil fuels. And the last but not least is the energy sector itself. Here we want to reduce CO2 emissions in all areas of the capital city. Now, of course, it may be interesting to discuss these individual areas in greater detail. However, now I would like to ask you about another thing that is being looked at the European level, and it is the sustainable public procurement, that is, public contracts in line with sustainability principles. Is this something that Prague has been involved in? Yes, we definitely hope to do more in this area. Since 2016, we've been discussing this a lot. This act has been prepared. The Prague Department for Public Procurement has been looking at this very closely, and all our departments or units involved in public procurement should prepare their plans really closely. They should be able to deal with it more professionally. And we really want to do more about sustainable and responsible public procurement. One of the main partners for us here is the Platform for Responsible Public Procurement, led by the Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs. Currently, some workshops are underway looking at this area and trying to train employees of the Prague City Council. Thank you very much. This was Mr. Vít Šimral from the Prague City Council. So thank you very much, and we wish you all the best in your efforts. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will play a short video by Mrs. Daniela Němcová, who is the Director of Business for Society. Good morning. Business for Society is the biggest platform for corporate social responsibility. One of our main objectives is to present space for discussion or for exchange of good practice. I am really happy that we can get in touch with you, even though online. I hope that this forum today will be inspiring and motivating for your efforts. I have seen it often that our top managers become aware of the fact that now it's really time to act. We have received many applications from many different companies, so it is good to see that despite the COVID pandemic, our companies are becoming more and more active in this field. Even when compared to 2019, there is this clear trend towards greater business sustainability. At the same time, we have seen many new projects and many new initiatives coming up. Companies and businesses are looking for new ways of getting involved in these efforts. It is obvious that companies do not only seek to generate profit. More and more often they try to contribute towards the development of inclusive and sustainable society, of minimizing impact on the environment. However, expectations of stakeholders are getting higher all the time. It is obvious that more than ever the transparent business is becoming vital. The new generation of the young people really want to see the purpose and the sense of the sustainable business. Therefore, this new generation of people expect to get other values from employers, values such as respect and responsible attitude to the society and to the environment. In this way, global challenges are reflected at the local level. And that is one of the reasons why this year we appeal at the companies to intensify their effort in sustainable development. And we summarized it in our call for 2030. The objectives are as follows. First, to actively implement SDGs of the United Nations. This should promote possibilities for sustainable development in the Czech Republic as well. Second, we want to use all the potential of Green Deal presented by the European Commission and to promote the transformation of the Czech economy, which should become more competitive and more responsible. Third, the corporate social business leadership. The fourth, responsible business and sustainability. And the fifth, we want to promote dialogue between businesses, between the private sector and public administration. Now, the call 2030 is targeted at top managers, but also at people from smaller companies. It is for those who want to improve the reputation of their company and who want to get actively involved in the transformation of our economy. Now, with regard to the autumn roundtable about Green Deal, we plan to organize the whole series of roundtables focusing on the promotion of these objectives. At the end of this event, you will get more information. So thank you very much for your attention and I wish you all the best.
To byla výzva Daniely Němcové pro rok 2021 a já jenom připomínám, že vlastně
appeal presented by Mrs. Daniela Němcová. If I remember correctly, this initiative started back in 2019 and maybe now we could see the 8 companies who signed up to this project back in 2018. It was at that time that many international businesses were joined also by their Czech counterparts. Some of them are here with us. It is, for example, Vodafone or E.ON. And more companies are joining them right now. which is good news because we want to see more stakeholders from the Czech Republic participating. Now, in 2020, CSR Europe also intensified their activities and their efforts at the European level, even though we have these new challenges now due to the COVID situation. So it's getting really difficult to promote these issues because these are very important issues. So I hope you have seen these 8 companies. We really would like to thank all these 8 pioneers very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will move to the first section of our event. It is called the Active Leadership. At the beginning of this Active Leadership section, we will play a short video by Ursula von der Leyen, the chair of the European Commission. It is her greeting recorded in Davos, where she responded to Klaus Schwab, the president of the World Forum. So let's
World Economic
listen
Forum is
to
once
her.
again asking the right questions with your initiative, Klaus, the Great Reset. We must learn from this crisis. We have to change the way we live and do business to be able to keep what we value and hold dear. If temperatures keep rising and nature keeps disappearing, we will see more natural disasters and zoonotic diseases. We have spoken a lot about the links between biodiversity loss and COVID. Now we must move to action. And to understand why, I want you to accompany me to a remote village in Guinea, just for a minute. There, a young boy playing next to a tree some years ago is thought to have been the first victim of one of the worst outbreaks of Ebola. A hollow tree had been infested by bats. The animals had been pushed towards the village because 80% of forests in the region had been destroyed. And we do not know exactly what happened there, but what we do know is that the boy became gravely ill and died a little later, as did his sister and his pregnant mother. And we do know just how tragic the repercussions were across Africa and the world. And if we don't urgently act to protect our nature, the next pandemic will be around the corner. And to those who prefer the business case, here it is. More than half of global GDP is dependent on high-functioning biodiversity and ecosystems. And it is from food to tourism, you just name it. And in the last World Economic Forum Global Risk Report, the top 5 global risks are all related to the environment. Almost 3/4 of the Earth's surface have been altered, and we see the changes in our everyday lives, less wilderness and wildlife, increasing temperature and extreme weather. And these developments are different sides of the same coin. In fact, they mutually reinforce each other. When we lose forest, we don't just lose green space or natural habitat. We lose a key ally in our fight against climate change.
Evropské komise prezentované předsedkyní Ursulou von der Leyen, ale
So that was a welcome video of Ursula von der Leyen, but we've mentioned a number of times the Sustainable Development Goals during the morning. So the next guest will be the head of the Information Office of UN for the Czech Republic, Mr. Michal Broža. So can we hear each other? Yes. So could you tell us what is the agenda of your office in the Czech Republic? Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and for giving me this chance. We are quite an old institution. The UN office in Prague has been opened, was opened in 1947 already. That was because Czechoslovakia was an active player in the establishment of that global organization, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs back then, Jan Masaryk, played an important role in establishing UN. So the overall objective of setting up these offices and the mandate has been basically the same since, was to bring the global organization closer to people so that it's not just somewhere across the ocean in New York, but bring the office closer to the people of individual countries. So our objective is to connect the global organization with the local level and with local topics and search for the local context, cooperate with the local players, local actors, local stakeholders. We are a relatively small office. We don't have our own programs or projects, but we cooperate with others. And I think we are one of the pioneers of sustainable development in the Czech Republic, because the whole sustainable development agenda, protection of the climate, of wildlife and nature, all of that falls amongst our priorities. So these are the main topics, and also awareness raising and education. Okay, thank you. And how do you, as an information center in Prague, support the sustainable agenda in Prague? I suppose you will mainly focus on the SDGs. Well, yes, that's what we've been doing since 2015. To look at the Sustainable Development Goals and make it an everyday agenda. When it was adopted in 2015 in New York, then when I had various speeches on various levels, I always said, let's have a look at that agenda. Let's have a look at the individual targets, individual topics, and let's look at it. We've been dealing with the climate change topic. We've been dealing with that for many years, but also energy transformation, phasing out coal, for example. Secretary General Guterres talked about that at a summit a few days ago. He mentioned specifically phasing out coal by 2030. And he placed an appeal on all of the countries involved to move away from coal as a fossil fuel by 2030. So our main agenda is to speak to various organizations, to talk to them about the global aspects, the global objectives. I believe that's what needs to be heard in the media. Well, when you said that we should leave some of the topics fall to the ground, so to say, get to the local level, of course, we should join forces on various levels. We shouldn't leave it only to the politicians on the highest level, but when you look at all the topics that you deal with, what should be the role of companies in this common effort? Well, the first thing that I would like to say, and I'm really happy that I was invited, and I think that we need to change the way we talk. It is not about what should be done, speaking in a conditional sentence, but we started to say what we have to do, what needs to be done. The companies should realize, first of all, that they shouldn't do all of this because somebody else wants them to do it, but it's in their own interest. Prevention, for example, in relation to COVID-19, prevention, testing, and so forth, it is not that the government wants them to do it. It's in their own interest, and they have to realize that. Of course, enterprises, companies have to play a very important role in meeting SDGs, and we don't have much time left. The midterm goals, which should be met by 2030. That's 2030. That's very close, and then 2050, when we hope that the temperature will not be more than 3 degrees Celsius higher than today, and the question is whether the Earth will still be a good place to live. So we have to focus on emissions and reducing them. So what is the link between the UN goals and the goals of the European Union? Is there a link? And could you sum it up briefly? Well, I'm not an expert on this, but still, I will try to comment on that. The European Green Deal. The European Green Deal, it's like the 10 commandments of sustainable development. And I think that they are very similar to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainability is not only about natural environment. There are also other issues like gender issues, equal opportunities, and so forth. And enterprises and companies should be leaders, and I think that they will be leaders also in the other issues. I think that the European Green Deal is very close to the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Okay, thank you for explaining that, and I promise I will not speak in conditional sentences, but rather in imperative sentences, because time is running, we don't have much left. So thank you, Michal, Broža, and I wish you all the best, and the same to your UN office in Prague. And now we should have Mr. Jan Kříž connecting to us, the Deputy Director for the EU funds at the Ministry of Environment. Okay, we can hear each other. So a specific question to you as well. What financial support tools does your ministry have for small, medium, but also large companies in terms of helping the companies make the Czech Republic more green? Well, we have quite a few subsidy programs and tools. Some of them already running, some of them will start running soon. One of the newer tools is called a modernization fund. And this modernization fund focuses on decarbonization of industry, including large industries, large enterprises. So even larger enterprises, for example, heat producers, can tap on that in their efforts to be more greener. So, for example, companies that want to install higher input renewable energy sources, they can use this program. So it's a huge chance, not only for large companies, but also small and medium sized, but also it's targeting municipalities for the so-called communal sources of energy, community sources of energy. So since the beginning of April, they can use this program and invest with these subsidies into lowering emissions generated when producing heat and electricity. So that's one of the newer tools that we're preparing and that will start running very soon. And that should contribute to the SDGs. We also have structural funds of the EU, the cohesion policy, as an operating program environment. That's a traditional tool. And companies can continuously ask for subsidies for circular economy. For example, production of recycled products from recycled materials, and so forth. We also have programs for companies for reduction of emissions, not CO2 in this case, but also but other pollutants, because there are many areas that are highly polluted and that simply need to install more filtering devices, more filters on the chimneys of the biggest polluters. to comply with the emission limits. So subsidies may be provided for that as well. So these are the main two subsidy programs, and we also have a specific subsidy program for coal mining regions in the Czech Republic, specifically Karlovy Vary region and the Moravian and Silesian region. And we will try to help their economies to move away from fossil fuels, specifically coal, to cleaner energies, and also mitigate the negative impact of that. Because there are also social aspects or economic aspects. So, for example, small and medium-sized enterprises will have a chance to ask for a number of subsidies from various sources, so that the phasing out of coal in these regions does not have so dramatic negative impacts. So we'll try to help the companies, for example, create new jobs in other sectors. So these are the three main tools that we have at our disposal, but there are also other programs for small and medium-sized enterprises, for example, Green for Savings, which is a traditional program for installing renewable sources of energy. And we can see that it really is being used by small companies or medium-sized companies. They do install photovoltaic panels and other sources of energy, and it creates employment. And basically, that employment in the companies that then go and install the panels, these are green jobs in our perspective. So that's how we actively support all these possibilities. There will be a lot of money for these programs. For example, the modernization fund is for 10 years, and there will be at least 150 billion Czech crowns. So there's a huge bulk of money and a lot of space for all these projects. So good projects definitely will be supported. Okay, thank you. I understand I asked about many projects and programs, but a specific question to the Modernization Fund now. I understand that it is still being fine-tuned, but companies that are thinking about tapping into these funds, could you give them a specific example of a project where the company's money, European money, state money could merge, could join forces and use the Modernization Fund? Well, the levels of subsidies are never really strictly fixed. When I look at heat production, for example, there are certain ceilings for allowed public aid, something like 50%, and the rest will have to be funded by the given company. So you can receive 50% on subsidies, 50% will have to be funded by the company. So a typical project could be, for example, a transition from coal to biomass. It looks like gas will also be an allowed source, green source. So a conversion from one source to another source that can be funded. But you can also have a smaller project. For example, in line with the principle of community energy production, if you want to have a small biomass boiler in your municipality, that could be an interesting energy project that could be subsidized from the Modernization Fund. Thank you. Thank you. I understand that a lot comes to your mind. Thank you for mentioning the two examples of projects. I believe that the Modernization Fund will be a success and the Czech Republic will be able to tap into those funds. So that was the head of the Managing of European Funds at the Ministry of Environment of the Czech Republic. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Okay, now let's jump into the next stage of our morning session, and that's the introduction of the ambassadors of sustainable business. So what companies became the ambassadors and what do they do for doing business sustainably and responsibly. Let me welcome Jan Kondáš, Head of Communications and Corporate Affairs from Tesco Group. Yes, we can hear each other. Good morning. So, could you introduce your company and tell us what you do in 2021 to be active when it comes to sustainable and responsible business? Thank you. Thanks for giving me the floor. I'll try to be quick and briefly introduce our company. I suppose that all of you had a chance to visit our stores. Every week we have more than 1 million customers shopping in our stores. We are a part of Tesco Group, which is present in Great Britain, Ireland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and we're also quoted at the London Stock Exchange. We've been in the Czech Republic for over 25 years. We're celebrating 25 years in the Czech market this year, and it's an honor for us to provide high-quality services and products to our customers. We're also happy that our customers can shop in various or through various channels. We have 186 brick-and-mortar stores. We also have some 160 Žabka stores. That's a small format of shopping, and of course you can also shop online, which is becoming more and more common. We have over 10,000 employees, our colleagues in the Czech Republic, and we're a company with a very rich history, and we're very active when it comes to sustainable and responsible business. So that's as much as the introduction goes. So what does 2021 mean for us, and how are we trying to be active and to do sustainable and responsible business? Well, despite the COVID pandemic, we do our best to continue towards our objectives. The first main objective is to fight against food wastages. Our objective is that by 2026 there will be no food waste in our stores. So we cooperate with the food banks, the so-called food banks, to make the whole process of stocking and selling food as effective and efficient as possible. So also plastic waste and plastic packaging, that's a big topic today. Everything is in plastic, and we realize it's a problem. And it's becoming more and more topical and a bigger and bigger problem. And our objective is that by 2025, all packaging of our products will be fully recyclable, or reusable. So that's a big objective that we'll try to meet. And I'll tell you how we're trying to meet later on. The third main objective is combating climate change. And there are two sub-objectives. By 2036, we want to have up to 100% of energy from renewable resources. And by 2050, we will reduce our carbon footprint by 100%. So these are the main pillars of our sustainable and responsible business in the Czech Republic. Okay, so you said in the beginning that you're doing all this despite the pandemic. So let me ask another question. What is it like to try to meet all these objectives, considering the pandemic? Because Tesco probably had to change all sorts of processes and logistic chains and so forth. So how do you manage?
Yes, thank you very much for this question. I think this was not only us who had this problem, it was something which affected all retailers, and we had to change lots of things. We had to significantly change some of our processes, some of our procedures to ensure sufficient food supply to all citizens. This was a major challenge. It is still a major challenge because the pandemic is still very dynamic and it's still underway. But we believe that the corporate social responsibility is absolutely vital. It is an integral part of our strategy, and we have agreed on this among the whole management of our company. We said it very clearly at the very beginning of the pandemic that we do not want to change this direction. We want to continue our efforts despite the COVID situation. Thank you very much. These are very positive words, and we are really happy to hear you continue to be one of our ambassadors of responsible business. And now I hope that we have here with us Mrs. Zuzana Holá, who is the head of corporate communication and sustainable business in Vodafone. Good morning. I'm really happy to be here with you today. Okay, so we've heard important information from your colleagues in the retail industry, and now we would like to hear from you from the communication sector. Can you tell us something about the situation in Vodafone? Do you manage to keep this trend of corporate social responsibility? Well, I'm happy to say that Vodafone is still very active in this area. I could even say more than ever. I'm sure all of you know Vodafone very well. It is the second biggest communications operator in the world, and in the Czech Republic we are the third biggest operator. We provide fixed connection, mobile telephone connection, and also TV services. However, we do not want to speak today about our business strategy, but we want to speak more about the corporate social responsibility. Now, Vodafone does not have any specific sustainable strategy based on business strategy, but we have rather integrated sustainable business objectives into our strategy, and we have three main pillars which we follow in this way. The main pillars of our business are closely linked to the main objective, which is the investment into digital networks and new technology. The new technology, the new connectivity and digitalization help us to contribute towards equal attitude, equal approach, or equal access of all people to our services. When I say equal access, it means equal access irrespective of people's gender, of people's background, or whether they are from a minority, or irrespective of which area they come from. So this can provide them with equal access to good working conditions or good education conditions. Vodafone tries to support new projects, innovative technologies that try to improve the lives of people also from disadvantaged groups. And we try to support technologies with a positive impact on people's lives. At the same time, we promote good conditions for our employees. We have all kinds of benefits related to, for example, maternity leave, or people from LGBT plus communities, or disabled employees. We try to promote the same objectives at the external level. We are members of various platforms that promote equal access of diverse groups to, that is, equal access to work or education. Yes, sorry to interrupt you, but I would like to ask you about recent developments in your company. I'm sure in your business practices you have to further develop these digitalization services, because many people are completely dependent on these online services, on accessibility of these services not only in Prague and these surroundings, but in the whole Czech Republic. Yes, absolutely. This is the major task that we follow, and we have been following this more than ever in the past year. During the COVID pandemic, we've been trying to reinforce our accessibility. We've been trying to improve our accessibility not only in remote areas, but in all areas in general. We've been trying to increase the speed of our connections. We were trying to speed up digitalization procedures. We've been sending all kinds of information text messages provided by the various important applications. As to the individual people, as you've mentioned, the digital technology is absolutely vital to people's lives these days. It has become more and more important to improve online education, not only for schools where we've been cooperating with city councils, but we've been also cooperating with individual schools. We've been trying to help them by providing modems, by providing enhanced connections. We have been involved in projects such as providing laptops or notebooks to families from disadvantaged background. And this is something we want to enhance even more in 2021. We don't want to only improve our business in this way, but also to promote education for the children and also for the elderly, because for the elderly people it's more important than ever as well. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. I wish you the success, because it's not only important for you, but it's also important for us. We are more dependent on your services than ever, so we hope you have the success, and we hope you will promote corporate social responsibility further. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I wish you a successful event today. Okay. The last but not least, we will we will speak to another guest, Mrs. Radka Marková from Orlen Unipetrol, who is the project manager for CSR. Good morning. Hello. So we've heard presentations from the retail industry, from the telecommunications sector, and now we have yet another sector. Let me ask you about the year 2021, what it means to you, and what about the corporate social responsibility. Thank you very much. First of all, before I say a few words about the corporate social responsibility, I would like to make a brief summary of Orlen Unipetrol. We process the oil. We use it to manufacture fuel, fertilizers, oils, and other products. We are a big employer. We employ 4,800 people. Our people work in 5 production facilities, be it the oil refineries in Litvínov, then in Pardubice, and also in the company Spolana Neratovice. At the same time, we have 2 research institutes. One is situated in Brno, the other one is located in Litvínov. Our mission is not only to develop the innovative processing of oil, but at the same time we try to come up with new technological procedures. We try to promote corporate social responsibility in our business. We focus on 4 main areas. One is training and education, support to local communities, protection of the environment, and taking care of our employees. In 2021, what we want to do in terms of corporate social responsibility. Let me mention one project or one strategy which we follow, and it is the hydrogen technology applied in the automotive industry. This year, we plan to open the first publicly accessible hydrogen fuel stations. Hydrogen is a new generation fuel which does not generate the waste as other fuels. Okay, let me ask you a more specific question. When exactly will it be possible to use these hydrogen fuel stations you've mentioned? Yes, sure. The first station should be open in summer in Prague, in the area of Barrandov. First of all, it will be used for hydrogen-fueled buses, and it will take a little while before we open a station for cars. But definitely, first stations will be open in Prague and Litvínov. Thank you. Thank you very much for this additional information. And maybe would you like to mention some other plans followed by your company to implement the objectives of the European Union to become completely carbon neutral by 2050? Yes, sure. Well, together with the mother company, the group of Orlen, we also approved this target to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. The one project I would like to mention is that we want to build this new generation power generation station in Litvínov. And at the same time, we've been analyzing other possibilities, maybe burning of hydrogen, which should significantly reduce the consumption of gas, and this should also significantly reduce the generation of CO2 emissions. Yes, thank you very much. Now, again, speaking here as a driver, let me ask you, what can I use as a fuel into my car in the future years? Yes, definitely. That's a very good question, and thank you very much for this question. In cooperation with our research institutes, we have been developing some alternative fuel based on wooden chips or kitchen oil, the used kitchen oil. And this fuel should have the same property as petrol or oil. Okay, I can see that the future brings great potential, so thank you very much about these possibilities. This was Mrs. Radka Marková, CSR project manager from Orlen Unipetrol. And thank you very much for being the ambassador of corporate social responsibility. Thank you very much. And now we will play a short video that will show you the sustainability is not only a project, but it's also a way how to generate profit.
In the last 75 years. Meaning one side has too much, the other side will oppose it.
We've done a lot of things to create the imbalances that we have today.
COVID-19 has laid bare the systemic social inequities. Addressing these larger problems must become our priority.
We have to make sure that the economy actually works for the people.
It's not just about growth for growth's sake, but how we share that prosperity.
It is not sustainability or profit, it is profit through sustainability.
We have to reskill our people to be successful, and if they're more prosperous, the companies are going to be more prosperous.
The most important tools are the education and technology.
Technology creates opportunities so that people are able to move to greener industries.
It's not about not knowing that we are in a climate emergency. It's about choosing to take action.
For that, you need to act decisively in the support of renewable energy.
The science is very clear today that the sustainable path is more attractive.
We can focus on the short-term benefit, or we can look further to solve bigger issues.
We need unprecedented collaboration to create systemic change.
It means redesigning the instruments we currently have.
On a complete
completely different trajectory, and that doesn't leave anybody behind.
We are one community, and we have to remember that.
Thank you. And now I would like to open the second section of this forum, which will be the first panel discussion of CEOs. And I am very much looking forward to this. But before we proceed with the discussion, I would like to give the floor to Stefan Crets, the Executive Director of CSI Europe.
Challenge for corporates that made a commitment to reach CO2 neutrality by 2030?
The biggest challenge, I think, is outside of their companies. Inside they can manage and change by themselves. And of course, an important element is the most challenging inside is the choices they make in terms of production processes and products, etc. But I think outside of the company, how they deal with zero carbon from their suppliers, but also on how they go to the customer and what the use phase of the product. So those are the big, which they cannot control fully. And for that, again, you will need that collaboration. So there, I think, lies the biggest challenge is outside of, first of all, once you defined a target inside, you have to start managing. That's what companies do. If they have a target, they will start manage towards that. But then it's to get the rest on board, the suppliers deeper in the supply chain, the customer, the end user, etc. So there, I think, lies the biggest challenge. And that requires, I think, and that's another element in our leadership model in CSR Europe, is leadership is one element, what I explained earlier. The other element is engagement. How do you engage outside of the borders of your company? Of course, it's important to engage inside towards your employees and your resources, etc. But how do you engage outside? Not only towards the communities, etc. around, but with your suppliers, with your customers. Do you have a model for that? And we see maybe too much companies consider themselves as a closed setting. But if we want to tackle the issues, we will need that engagement element as well to obtain the leadership we need for that. Yeah.
And if I can have a last question, what would you advise to CEOs in terms of post-pandemic sustainable development?
Yeah, integrate. That would be my advice, meaning take it seriously. There is the business opportunity of it. Your customers will ask for it. The legislation is moving in that direction. So integrate inside the way you take, and the first thing would be in your financial decision making. Start there. Where is it in the financial decision making? Be it a project, a new project for building a new plant, for example, an investment in a certain R&D direction, in even the contracts with suppliers, or in make sure there is always a sustainability screen in it that both covers environmental impacts and societal or social impacts. If you integrate that, if you manage to do that, then the rest will follow. And so the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, the CEO has to set the purpose and the direction. But it's the Chief Financial Officer who will be the key in how far they get on sustainability with and inside that company, I would think.
Thank you. Thank you for your answers. We do appreciate it very much. Thank you.
And now we have to switch into English, and it's a great pleasure for me that I can start the panel with CEOs and still, of course, talk about sustainability and responsibility in their business. And I'm really looking for this debate. First of all, I would like to introduce our speakers. It's Jitka Haubová, board member from Komerční banka. Jan Hutchins, Group Corporate Responsibility Director from Tesco Group. Good morning.
Hello, morning.
Richard Stonavský, Director of Regulation and External Affairs from Vodafone. Hello.
Good morning.
Sol Cabo, Market Director, Czech Republic and Slovakia, Velux Company. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Martin Záklasník, CEO and Chairman of the Board from E.ON. Hello.
Good morning.
Perfect. And Tomáš Viatrak, General Director, Orlen Unipetrol. Hello to you.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
I'm really looking for this debate, and the first question is absolutely clear. What do you consider to be key to the success of sustainability in your specific business? I think we can start with Jitka Haubová, please.
Good morning, once more again. Do you hear me?
Yeah, it's perfect, please.
So thank you for the introduction. I would like to introduce also Komerční banka. We are member of the French international group Société Générale, and we rank among the leading banking institutions in the Czech Republic. Every fifth Czech citizen and company are our clients, and we are of course happy for that. And despite COVID crisis, KB maintains a robust capital base with total capital adequacy 22.3%, and financial performance remains resilient despite major economic decline caused by the pandemic. And back to your questions, there are two main, let's say, elements internally. If we want to succeed and succeed big, desire and motivation are the key elements to make that happen. Unfortunately, for the most Czech people, my colleagues and also our clients, the climate change still seems like a fairly abstract problem, something that's happened far away to polar bears, or something that won't really happen until the distant future. So company leaders, we also in Komerční banka have to be able to explain that sustainability is not sham, it's not buzzword trend, it is also not charitable donations and environmental management activities only, or distraction from increasing profit. So we have to be able to deliver targeted and local instead of global messages to our audience. We love it. And externally, there are two main elements that must happen. First of all, the achievement of an interim greenhouse gases EU reduction target of 40% by 2030 would require around 260 billion euro of additional investment a year, according to expert estimates. And therefore, European Commission is ready to invest an enormous amount of money in order to mobilize finance for sustainable growth. The expectation is 1 trillion euro. It is not mistake, it is thousands of billions. And the second point is that EU created new regulatory framework which will become effective during this year, and will be obligatory for banks, for us. So money and regulation. So finally, I'm convinced that banks will play an irreplaceable role, and we play it.
Thank you. You mentioned many things, but I would like to underline the thing that for many people it's still abstract things, and it's necessary to do it in concrete things and to deliver it to all of us. Thank you for your introductory word, and now I would like to invite Jan Hutchins from Tesco Group to all audience. We know something from Jan Kondáš from Tesco Group, speaker a few minutes ago, but I would like to add your point of view. What is sustainable in the business of Tesco Group in these and next years, please?
Well, I think the colleague before us from CSR Europe was exactly right when he described what good practice looks like. It's about targeting material issues, so issues where you can make the biggest difference on them. It's about measuring your approach towards those targets, and it's about acting and engaging. And in a business like ours, with such a broad range of interests, from diversity and inclusion through to animal welfare, packaging, food safety, emissions, renewables, and so on, it really is important to target. And I think that target, measure, act approach is key to success. Jan very briefly mentioned some of the work that we've done on food waste, which I think is a good example of how we've tried to make an abstract idea, the impact of food on the environment, including the climate, relevant for colleagues across the Tesco business. So we've set targets, Jan mentioned them. We want zero food that's fit for human consumption to be wasted at Tesco. We've been measuring our progress towards that now for 4 years, and we publish on our websites, including in the Czech Republic, our data that shows the progress towards that. We then build that into plans for all of our business units. So colleagues in every store in the Czech Republic have a role to play, whether it's donating surplus food to food banks at the end of the day, or rotating the product so that they sell before their best before dates. But then that engagement point is really important. These are all big issues that we're dealing with, much bigger than any single company. So beyond just engaging colleagues, you do indeed need to engage your suppliers and your customers. So 5 of our suppliers now supplying into the Czech Republic publish their food waste data and are working with us to try and reduce it along the chain. That will be 22 suppliers by the end of next year. And customers, we're just reaching the stage now where we're able to start to talk about customers. And I'll stop for now, but I think there's something interesting in customers' views around the role of businesses in relation to them on sustainability issues.
Thank you, and thank you that you mentioned the importance of cooperation, because it's really a really big issue, and it's not possible to do it just in one local store. Thank you very much. Now, Richard Stonavsky, what is the sustainability for Vodafone Group, please?
Thank you. And I will probably use words which you have heard today many times. It's integration, it's buy-in or engagement, and it's leadership. Zuzana from Vodafone earlier mentioned something which surprises many. We actually do not have a CSR strategy. We do not have a sustainability strategy. We have just one single strategy, which reflects not only the business, but also our role in the society. And our strategy, overall strategy, we rather call it a purpose, is built on 3 pillars: on digital society, on inclusion for all, and planet. And this integration allows us to engage everyone in the company, and not only on the company, but also our customers and also our suppliers. Last year, for example, we introduced a new supplier schemes where 20% of the criteria when assessing a supplier or a proposal for a supplier is a sustainable set of sustainable or sustainability conditions. So we are looking at the environmental policy of this supplier. We are looking at the way how the supplier treats their employees, and we look at their inclusion and diversity targets. And this is really important because we feel there's a role of our business to spread around the message that sustainability should be really part of our business and of our future. And last but not least, what I need to say is we are seeing more and more often that sustainability and purpose is not a question which should be dealt with internally only. We have questions from our employees. It's very important to them. It's an integral part of our employee brand proposition. So we want people to choose Vodafone because we are strong in our sustainability targets. It's important for our stakeholders, it's important for our customers, and last but not least, it's important for our shareholders. So our shareholders are starting to ask, or have started to ask, what are we doing in the area of environmental protection, sustainability, inclusion and diversity. So there is a clear link between the sustainability goals, sustainability agenda, and the value of the business. Mm-hmm. That would be for the start.
Thank you. Just one short additional question. How unique is to not to have specific strategy and to spread it through all other strategies? What are the pluses and minuses of this approach?
I think the big plus, as I said earlier, is that we do not think we should be sustainable in order to generate profit. We need to be sustainable and generate a profit. So we see a big positive upside in having this single approach to doing our business.
Okay, thank you very much. Now the floor is for Solt Sabo from Velux company, and I would like to hear your approach to sustainability in your company.
Yes, thank you very much. So we do have a strategy, a long-term strategy, and for us it's very, very important. And I believe that the most important is in our sustainable strategy is, let's say, our nature or our DNA, our mental self. Through our products, our purpose is to create the products which are useful for the society. So promoting sustainable buildings, renovations, bringing fresh air, daylight, etc. So this is one thing. Another one, to treat our customers, employees, suppliers, resources better than other companies, including safety, environment, zero waste, carbon neutrality, etc. Mm-hmm. Of course, running a responsible business, generating growth, financial independence, supporting diversity in our organization. And this is not something new. This objective to be a model company was defined like 50 years ago by our founder, Willem Kan Rasmussen. So for us, it's quite natural to act in this way. And we have quite ambitious targets also concerning environment and carbon neutrality. I believe that we will have the possibility to talk about it later. But this is, I believe, that the basic in our company.
Okay, thank you very much for this introduction words. And now Martin Záklasník, CEO from E.ON, energy company. So what is sustainability for you?
So first of all, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's perfect. Please continue.
Brilliant. So I actually have a chance to talk to a number of companies. Some of them even sit in this panel, and we discuss sustainability, right? And it's interesting that our approach towards sustainability has gone through the same stages like the approach of most of the companies. And let me generalize that perhaps. At the very beginning, there needs to be the awareness of the fact that the issue of sustainability is an extremely important social debate, right? Versus, I mean, there are a number of companies on the Czech market who simply tell me openly, Martin, we do it because our mother company wants us to do that. We don't really believe in it, but we do it, right? So this is not the way to go, right? Then you would fake it So the necessary start of the journey is to say it is a great social debate and it becomes part of our purpose. We have defined at E.ON our purpose in 6 words. That's the reason why people go to work at E.ON. 6 words: guiding customers to sustainable energy future. And the word sustainable is one of the things. So that's the purpose. It starts with a purpose, and that's the first layer, right? However, once we achieve the first layer and simply say we don't do it because our mother wants to do it, but we do it because it becomes part of our purpose, that's a necessary condition, but not a sufficient one. Then comes level 2. In level 2, and that's the trick, customers are actually very transparent, and they're very tough in comparing what you say and what you do. So customers insist on companies walking the talk. So level 2 is that you need to be very authentic on that. You need to avoid any kind of greenwashing. I've also spoken to a number of companies who told me, well, Martin, we somehow feel that the issue is important, so we might do a little bit of sustainability here and a little bit there, but I'm always saying, sorry guys, you cannot be half pregnant. You know, either you are or you are not. Pregnancy for 100%, is it. Being 50% pregnant does not exist. So being authentic means that you walk the talk, you really do the things. So you have green energy in your houses. You say no to plastic. You promote women. You promote minorities. You have PV on your roof. You don't print that much, right, to save the paper, etc. It really needs to be lived in the company. And then there is level 3, which I'm very happy that some of the companies are starting to reach. And level 3 is the awareness that sustainability is not just hygiene, but that it can become a differentiator in the tough competitive environment on the market. There is a mobile phone operator in the Czech Republic, by the way, also being part of this debate, that simply said, we have a green network. Whoever comes to us, dear customers, we guarantee you that we have a green network. And it becomes competitive advantage in comparison with the other mobile phone operators. There is a retailer on the Czech market that said, you know what, we want to equip our roofs with photovoltaics, and we want to equip our parking lots in front of our sales outlets with charging stations, because we just want to show and give a clear signal customers, this is what we believe in, and it becomes a differentiator, and perhaps some customers will start shopping there and not somewhere else because it reflects their values. So again, these 3 levels are extremely important. At the beginning, it needs to become part of the purpose. So it really needs to be understood and treated as a very important thing. Second, it needs to be authentic. The companies really seriously need to walk the talk and convince their employees and customers that they do so. And number 3, and not many companies are realizing that so far, it can become source of competitive advantage on the market. I hope it was a little helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we can copy paste it and to push it into all textbooks, because I think it's very clear and it's very clever how you can think about this issue in your company. And just one big thanks that you mentioned somehow very painful debate that the commitment to sustainability sometimes it's not a commitment of the Czech company, but it's just a wish of the mother company, and sometimes it's really hard to combine it. But I think the regulation is more and more stricter, so I think it's necessary to have it as an integral part of commitment of all companies in the Czech Republic. And the last point of view on the sustainability is point of view of Tomáš Větrak, General Director of the Orlen Unipetrol Group. So please share with us your opinion.
Thank you very much. At the beginning, I want to say that maybe our production business sounds slightly like the dirty business, but generally we got the green mindset that is represented not only by my green tie today, but also and even mostly by our everyday actions and long-term goals. And of course, we are not only supported and forced to have this green mindset by our mother company, but I really believe all of our employees here, everyone, every day, share the same vision, and this is something very, very important for us. And this sustainability approach topic is rather broad for us. I would say I will try to divide it in like two areas. First is like what I see as very, very important, maybe even like the most important thing regarding promoting this sustainable development in the company is like having the clear vision and long-term priorities. This is definitely like for me like the key driver to do any long-term change. Yeah? So pandemic definitely had like huge impact on our current performance because we are also the fuel producers, so people are not driving, and that's obvious, like our financial results are worse due to that. But we are trying to look not only now from the perspective of 2020 or 2021, we trying to see the long-term approach, to see the 20, 30 years time horizon. And this is really important and also interesting because like our like current performance worsened due to the COVID situation, but we still managed to keep like the record high investment, mainly in long-term project that will reduce pollution and improve our like green side of our activities. And the transformation of this energy sector we are in definitely is the most significant ongoing global change right now. And is it easier for us not to change anything? Yes, of course, it will be easier to keep the status quo. But do we believe that we can also find our like business niche in green world? Yes, of course, we believe, and we are working every day to do it. It's long-term process, as I said. I see it as 30 years process, maybe even longer. Our goal officially submitted is like 2050 to have carbon neutrality. It's very ambitious goal, and we got like milestones. So first big milestones come 2030 when we expect to reduce our pollutions a lot and be much more friendly. Of course, it costs, and we need to remember that we should like treat these long-term goals in a way to protect the jobs and keep the competitiveness. Yeah, because it can't be like that. Europe will go forward, will be green, will be environment friendly, and all the other continents will stay where they are. It will not help us to build like long-term competitiveness, and our companies will lose the market. So it's very important to keep this like worldwide approach and trying like to build like the society around this long-term goal. But this long-term goal is definitely something like the most important to set it, not to defend the current position, but set like ambitious goal and trying to reach them. So this is like the key factor. Then I believe we should like focus on communication, and we are trying to do it to world around us, but also to our employees to build their involvement. And we are trying to build employees' involvement like organizing like ongoing daily, monthly, weekly CSR activities. Yeah, so it's nothing like comparable to the key goal that building our long-term sustainability to the world, but it's the small things helping us to be every day on the same platform, on the same level that we are every single day closer to being like green, sustainable and responsible company. And this, I will not go into the details maybe now, but just to mention like 4 pillars we are trying to address by these everyday actions. That's education, local support for local communities we are operating, environment, and everything around our employees. So
I'm sorry, I would like to interrupt you now. I think we can discuss it later. And thank you for this introduction of your company. But let me to start one next big issue, and almost all of you mentioned it already, and it's carbon neutrality. And I understand that it's an important goal for all your companies, but to be honest, I don't know how different is in different sectors. I can imagine that it's really hard to achieve it in energy sector, but to be honest, I don't know how hard it is to achieve it, for example, in banking sector or retail sector. We have here a director from Tesco Group, Jan Hutchins. So I would like to ask you if it's hard to achieve it during the pandemic crisis. And I can imagine that, for example, packaging is much higher than you expected at the beginning of the last year. So how hard is to have a focus on carbon neutrality in your company?
Yeah, it's an interesting point from the point of view of a food business and the food sector. It's a real challenge. So by 2030, almost 30% of global emissions will be associated with the production, transport, sale, and disposal of food. And that's increasing largely because of the great job that is being done in other sectors, some of them on the call, the energy sector, the transport sector, and so on, improving their carbon position. I think it's interesting. So we, like most of the companies on the call, we've been working on the issue for a long while. We have science-based targets that aim to help us achieve both zero carbon by 2050, but also be net zero by 2035. And as part of that process, we regularly map and understand our value chain and where emissions occur. And it isn't where you would expect. If you look at Tesco's total value chain emissions, 61% of emissions associated with what we do come from agricultural production. It's largely methane from cows that are used in dairy and in the meat industries, and all of the kind of support and the infrastructure that goes around that. When it comes to our operations, about 14% of our total value chain emissions come from it. And by far the largest part, almost 70% of that is electricity from the grid. So switching to renewables by 2030, we want to be 100% renewable by 2030, is a key way that we will reduce operational emissions. You asked specifically about packaging. Packaging represents about 7% of total emissions, and it's a difficult one. There are lots of trade-offs with packaging. Absolutely, we want to reduce packaging. I think equally as importantly, we want to make sure that it can be recycled. And there's a big job to do across the food sector to make sure that the materials are used are easy to recycle, and then in conjunction with the waste industry to make sure that that material, when it's collected, is genuinely recycled and reused. There has been an increase in some packaging over the past 12 months as a result of customers' concerns about public health, which you would understand. So customers are less keen today to buy loose product than they were 12 months ago. We think that will pass as we come out of the pandemic. So we don't think that will be a long-term trend. But I think it's important. I mean, I'll maybe pause. I think what we've seen during the pandemic actually has been an acceleration of a number of trends in this area that were already there before the pandemic, but absolutely have become more important today, and we think will remain with us once we start to come out of the pandemic.
Thank you that you mentioned the trade-offs in some hard decision. To be honest, I saw that it's more than 7% for packaging in your chain, but still we can see it all around us that at the one side it's just something that can be problem for emissions. At the other side it's just only one possibility how to get something to eat and go with it at home to quarantine. So thank you for this explanation. Maybe I would like to ask Jitka Haubová if all these restriction in last year and this year is problematic for Komerční banka and its goal to be carbon neutral. I don't know if it's somehow specific in this consideration of these goals.
Of course, it is specific. We are bank, right? So you are right. We are, as Komerční banka, also committed to reduce our carbon footprint to zero until 2026. So we jumped on the responsible business practices for the carbon neutrality, and we recently earned well-known carbon footprint management certificate against NEPCON, preferred by nature standards, including carbon footprint management plan. So our carbon footprint is not very high, but also is not negligible. We produce 35,000 tons of CO2 per year. So what has been achieved until now, for example, we left several non-energy efficient buildings. For example, we moved 2,500 people to modern, more environmental friendly buildings in Strulky. I am now here. Prerequisite was that we introduce flexible working, not for lockdown time only. So we too have invested large sum in digitization overnight, from the purchase of secure laptops, strengthening online connections, to the creation of a completely new transmission, allowing secure encrypted channels via bank. We also reduced energy consumption and water consumption. For example, in back office, I am responsible for the daily operations of the bank. So in back office, we reduced paper printing by 43%. We also have new cleaning services chosen with this respect. You will not find PET bottles in the bank. We are not distributing paper leaflets to branches anymore. So this is more or less internally, but of course we also clearly show that we care where the money from the loans goes. SG and also KB has committed to finance 120 billion euro to clear renewable energy until 2023. Of course, we are not the newcomers. Up to now, we have financed mainly energy efficient investment in industry, photovoltaics, power plants. We are providing advisory to green bonds, for example, for big clients. And at the same time, we are committed to exit from coal sector. In order to reach this goal, we have reviewed our entire portfolio and had a dialogue with all clients coming from mining and thermal coal sector to discuss their transition plan. During our risk approval process, we are considering how the company is potentially at risk for its long-term operations and sustainability of the business model. I would like also to mention that we have 7 grams of CO2 will be saved by our new student payment card, which is fully recyclable. We have 220 recyclable ATMs. It's 1/3 of all ATMs. Our payments terminals are operated by carbon neutral company, Worldline. And the next time I will continue. But finally, we also were able to manage to provide banks daily operations as payments, cards, ATMs, withdrawals, cash flow, processing of state programs during all this pandemic year. And without being able to carry out these simple operations, life in lockdown would be unthinkable, as we wouldn't be able to pay for goods or services, nor would we have any cash. So this I consider also as sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for this explanation. And now just one, I have to admit it, mystery for me. I don't know very much about the production chain of Velux company. So I would like to ask Solt Sabo, where are biggest adventures or challenges where you can reduce your emissions and to be carbon neutral, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. So as you mentioned, we are a production company. But before I will answer the question, I just really have to say that Martin from E.ON, like he was explaining these layers, it was like really perfectly explained what is the approach and what is our approach. And I'm very proud that I'm part of the Velux family. So Martin, thank you for the great explanation. What would be the right approach to this? Concerning carbon neutrality in our company, we have already decreased our carbon footprint by almost 50% since 2007. So we'll continue with investments in energy efficiency. We are shifting to renewable energy sources, installing solar panels on production sites or even in building sites in our offices. So this is one what we are already did. By 2030, we will become a 100% carbon neutral company. And as was mentioned, that we also not forgetting about our suppliers. So there is also a goal to help them to decrease their emissions by 50%. Then there was also mentioning packaging. So we already started the non-plastic packages in our products that we are delivering to our customers. So we are trying to innovate our design of our products, which is also will reduce the footprint or the carbon footprint significantly. By the way, our products in some cases are helping in the minus, so gaining some extra energy from the sun. So it's also nice. And what is probably also very important, that we have also a very ambitious target till 2041. So let's say within 20 years, we would like to also capture our historical carbon emissions. That means that since Velux was founded in 1941, we calculated by some experts that how many millions of tons of carbon dioxide was polluted. And we will invest to biodiversity projects developed and managed by WWF. So with this, to eliminate at all our historical carbon footprint, and also since 2030 or from 2030 be 100% carbon neutral for the future. So it's not easy. We are cooperating with advisors, with professionals in all segments, and we continuously, not only in our company, in our productions, but also in supplier sites, we would like to change it. So we believe that this is our responsibility to act as we are acting. So maybe that's the answer to your question, I believe.
Yeah, of course, thank you very much. And now it's just maybe my impression, but I think that the relatively easier to be carbon neutral and to achieve this goal, it could be for Vodafone. Or am I wrong, Richard Stonavský?
The question is, what is easy? We think it's we try to be really ambitious here, and Martin mentioned energy. Yes, we consume energy, electric energy, a lot of it, and you might imagine that with the growing amount of data everybody's using, with the new generation of mobile networks, we are speaking about 5G, there will be 6G, with gigabit speeds in the fixed networks, which we, by the way, introduced last year during the pandemic. You may say that the energy consumption must be growing. It's not the case. We managed to keep the energy consumption at flat despite the growing demand. So if we look at the unit of production, the energy consumed for 1 unit of production is decreasing significantly. And this gave us actually a incentive to be more ambitious in the goals for carbon neutrality. So we decided to advance the 2050 goal by 1 year. So we want to be carbon neutral as a Vodafone group as a whole by 2040. And it's quite a challenge because we are not operating only in Europe, but also in more, I would say, far areas where access to, for example, renewable energy might be limited. Speaking about this, let me say that another goal, not only energy, is the e-waste. So the old phones, old tablets that our customers were using and still have at home. There is a big challenge for us because we assume that there is roughly 10 million of old phones, smartphones and tablets in Czech households. And in every this gadget, there are valuable sources of reusable materials. So our goal is to recollect and use this because 95% of the phone can be reused. And our goal is by 2025 to recycle or reuse 100% of what we are selling. Also, Martin spoke about green energy. This is something which we are really proud of. And we started actually with this in 2011. Since 2011, Vodafone Czech has been buying only energy from reusable sources. And we want to extend this goal to Europe, and Vodafone in Europe will be buying fully renewable energy by mid of this year. And Vodafone globally will have this target set for 2025. And our services also are helping others to reduce their dependence on energy and their carbon footprint. We may speak about the Internet of Things, the smart solutions, which are helping also, for example, the energy sector to set the network in a way to be more efficient. It can help to reduce energy waste through setting the temperature in an accurate way. We are providing logistic solutions which try to minimize the spend of gas and energy when transporting things from one place to the other. So, despite it's for many people it's strange that telecom operator is a producer of carbon, but it's the fact, and we need to tackle it, and we have tackled it, and we have really ambitious goals in this.
So I was wrong. And during your speech, I I was just start to think how many old mobile phones I have in my flat, and I promise I will do something with it. So okay, thank you very much. And
please do. Unfortunately, if you have an old TV set, it's big and it occupies place. Unfortunately, with a smartphone, you just put it into a shelf and it's there and stays there. So please, everyone, bring it back to any of our shops.
So thank you very much for this challenge. And well, I think it's clear why Martin Záklasník and Tomáš Větrák are the last speakers to this issue, because I think that for energy sector it's a really big issue how to tackle it. And I know that both speakers just mentioned their goals. I want not I would like to ask what should be with more focus in Czech or European strategy in carbon neutrality goals. I don't know if you disagree with some goals at the European level, and if yes, what kind of change would you like to promote? So I would like to start with Tomáš Větrák.
Thank you. Yeah. I mentioned already about our ambitious goal regarding it, and now maybe I will try to be slightly more precise about what we are doing and how European legislation and environment can support us. So first of all, like this in energy sector, this kind of change means like huge investments I mentioned about. So for us to reach this neutrality goal means in Orlen Group by 2030 investments about 840 billion Czech. That's current calculation how we want to achieve just the first milestone. So we are talking about really big investments, and definitely what we expect and what we will be looking for is European support for not only like setting ambitious goal on European level, but also giving us some tools how to implement these changes according to like market situation, market conditions. So we are not asking like to postpone, as I mentioned. We fully share the vision to have carbon neutrality by 2050, and we really want to do this all this investment, all the adjustments to achieve this goal. Yeah. So all we need to have is support and kind of like protection if other countries like out of European Union will not follow the same way. So this is like longer debate, but definitely it need to be continued. Yeah. So that kind of voices from the industry were already mentioned many times on the discussion in Brussels. And I believe this voice is hearable, and like the industry business like generally share the vision, but expect some organized support, organized framework umbrella that will help us cover these adjustment investments that are, as I mentioned, really big one. In Czech Republic, for us, maybe just few words. What are we going to do here is definitely like switching to new renewable energy sources and the integration. So we want to focus mainly on photovoltaic installation at our production plants. So this is like the key investment that will help us to be more green and full carbon neutral. Unfortunately, part of our energy need to be produced with cogeneration because we need also the steam for the production. So in this situation, we will switch from coal to more modern production plants fueled by gas and hydrogen. And we already install the new unit in our subsidiary in Neratovice, and right now we are launching the much bigger investment in our production plant in Litvinov.
Okay, thank you very much for this explanation. If I may, I would like to ask about this question. Even Martin Záklasník, do you think there should be any different focus in green goals from your point of view?
No, I don't think so. I actually generally appreciate, and I share the view of Tamás, that I appreciate that the date and the ambition was set, because there were huge discussions. Should we first have a huge feasibility study and talk about what is possible and what not, and then set the ambition, or should we set the ambition and then basically adjust the means how to achieve it, right? And I'm quite convinced that the European Commission has done a correct approach. I called it Steve Jobs' approach, because I liked the story of Steve Jobs when he was saying, I want a contract for my customers on one page. And his lawyers said, it can't be. There need to be this, there need to be that. He said, no, it's going to be on one page. And then they came back and said, yeah, look, it is possible, but it's going to have these risks and it's going to cost us this amount of money. And I like basically this approach of the European Commission, which resembles the, let's say, ambition goal orientation of somebody like Steve Jobs, right? There are funds to help the transformation fund, the EU funds. There are, however, two obstacles that we need to with probably all of us, and that is a concrete plan how to become climate control. I have to be very honest. Saying that Komerční Bank has 35,000 tons of CO2 emissions. A company like E.ON in the Czech Republic has 8.5 million CO2 emissions. Right? 8.5 million.
I'm very sorry. I have to interrupt you. I don't know where is the fault, but now your sound is now wrong. So I'm sorry. I have to interrupt you, and it's good. I'm sorry about it, but it's good advantage for me because I have only a few minutes in this debate, and I have one really interesting question in the Sli.do application. And if I may, I would like to ask about it to you all. How do you manage dismissal of your employees? And have you prepared any CSR activities? So, floor is yours. I don't know who would like to react to these very interesting questions. So, if I may, I would like to ask, for example, Jitka Haubová. I think it's really hard to have a contact and contracts exactly with your employees.
So, as I tried to mention in my first introduction, I think that we have to, as let's say, managers, but also on the non-manager level, to be able to bring this message that sustainability is very important and part of our strategy from the, let's say, general and global messages to the targeted. Our audience should love it. And as Mr. Záklasník mentions, and it's clear that each transformation has benefits and risks. And without any doubts, COVID pandemic has accelerated many existing sustainability trends, but introduced new risk and change the trajectory of others. And sustainability is part of our strategy, and the benefits are obvious and has to be obvious to our employees, and we have to be able to explain it. That means better environment and sustainable business, improved competitiveness, business opportunity, and believe that we will be chosen because of that by our clients, and we will be evaluated even more by our investors.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much for these words, and I'm afraid that we have out of our time, so I have to say very big thank you to you all, to all speakers, Jitka Houbová, Jan Hačinc, Richard Stonavský, Soud Sabo, Martin Záklasník a Tomáš Větrák, and I'm really glad that we can be part of this discussion of sustainable and responsible business, and of course, I wish you success, because your success will be success of the Czech Republic and whole Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
A nyní můžeme přejít zpátky do češtiny a zahájit třetí blok, a kterým bude druhá panelová diskuze manažerů udržitelnosti a CSR. Ale ještě než se do toho pustíme, tak poprosím režii o video OSN k cílům udržitelného rozvoje.
So, what's the plan?
What's your plan?
What are your plans?
What's the plan?
What's the plan?
What's your plan? What's your plan of action?
Plan.
What's the plan?
So, what is the plan?
Wait, I have a plan.
I have a plan.
I have a plan.
That's the plan.
I have a plan here. I got a goddamn plan!
This plan's gonna work. Master plan, phase 1, side A.
I love everything about your plan.
भाई इससे कहते हैं planning.
What's it say?
Well, it says, I love it when a plan comes together.
So, how is the current situation perceived by CSR managers, those people that are responsible for setting up sustainable strategies in their companies? So, we can have a look at that in a detail in our next panel discussion. Now, let me welcome Martina Šilhánová, CSR manager from Nestlé, Czech Republic, Ivan Tučník, Public Affairs and Sustainable Development Manager for Pilsen Prastroj, Jan Václav Kašpar, Corporate Social Responsibility and Community Manager in Coca-Cola Hellenic Bottling Company. And let me also welcome Petr Křivonoška, Tourism Business Development Manager in Fashion Arena Prague Outlet. So I hope we can all hear each other. So the debate that we had before was about general setting of the main objectives that companies try to achieve. So let me ask you, how should we set sustainable activities of companies, and what challenges do you face at this moment, Mr. Tučník? Thank you, and good morning to all of you. Well, we can have a look at it from two perspectives. First of all, many things have changed, but on the other hand, many things have not changed. So what has not changed in our company is our general direction. What has changed is the context within which we function. So we focus on some topics more than before, and others are pushed to the background. So what has changed in our company is that since last year, we have a new sustainability strategy. We called it the Future 2030, and that sets our objectives and ambitions for the upcoming decade. Basically, that strategy builds on what we've done in the past, what we've been doing for a long time, but it moves us further, and we're looking at a longer horizon in a more comprehensive and wider context. It is built on 7 pillars, and just as we've heard in the previous panels, one of the pillars and one of the objectives is carbon neutrality, which we would like to achieve by 2030 in our breweries, but we also perceive carbon neutrality in the context of the whole supplier chain. So by 2030, we would like to achieve carbon neutrality, reduce carbon production, carbon emissions in our supplier chain by 30%. We also continue with our efforts to reduce consumption of water in our production. Our target is 2.75 liters per liter of produced beer, and we also have an objective for our packaging. So either we want all our packages, bottles and other packages to be reusable or fully recyclable, so that they're not just so that it is not just technically possible to recycle them, but it is actually done. And we also want to reduce the waste production down to zero. So we do not want our production to produce any waste at all. And we also focus on people-related issues. So it's not just about natural environment, but also about people. So diversity, for example, is a big topic, a big issue. Inclusion and diversity, we look at it from various perspectives, because it's not only about gender equality, but also achieving equality, equal participation of men and women in managerial positions. And we also realize that we need to place stress on responsible consumption. So our key ambition is to achieve 25% share of non-alcoholic products in our portfolio. So our direction has not changed. We're still heading towards the same objectives, but we speed it up and we have bigger ambitions. And what has changed is the context. The context forced us to focus and accentuate some of the topics more than the others. Primarily, now it is all about health and safety. So we have to place more focus on the safety, safe and healthy environment for our workers in our production units. So we place more focus and more care to various hygienic measures and hygienic tools and aids that people are equipped with, personal protection tools and so forth. It's becoming a standard, not only at work, but also at home. But we also focus on mental health, because the pandemic has an impact not only on physical health, bodily health of our people, but also mental health. So we provide support through various assistance programs, and we also organize various training courses and workshops to help our colleagues to cope with the current situation. We're also strengthening our role in our local communities, be it in Pilsen or Velké Popovice. So last year, through our community programs called Breweries for People, we prepared special grant schemes and we distributed 5 million crowns to various projects that helped the local communities better adapt to the pandemic and to the new situation. And last but not least, what is maybe even more important is that we also had activities outside of the local communities. We supported the first line, the front line, and we also focused on various segments that we are familiar with. For example, we tried to help various pubs to cope with the current financial situation. So, for example, collecting the unused beer from the pubs without the need of them to pay for that. We try to help them with setting up various hygienic and safety measures in their operations. We also focused on the support of the people active in the front line. We delivered dozens of thousands of non-alcoholic products to hospitals, to the people in the front line, in the first line. Okay, thank you. Thanks. I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a lot of info that you have to share with us. What I'm specifically interested in is the mental health care that you provide to your employees, because we don't hear so much about that. But I'm afraid that once the pandemic is over, many people in many companies will collapse, will have a mental breakdown. So we have to focus on that. Let me give the floor now to Martina Šilhanová from Nestlé, and let me ask her how her company perceives sustainable activities. I think that Pilsen Prastroj is in a similar situation. We reacted in a similar way, which is logical. We have three pillars. We talk about the concept of shared values. So throughout the structure of a company and our strategies, we want to become a valid member of the society.
Now, we have three pillars. The first pillar is the planet. Here we try to promote the reduction of CO2 emissions. In December 2020, we presented the way of Nestlé towards zero emissions, how we see this way. It involves lots of activities we've been doing before, but at the same time, we were trying to include other ways, other new ways of achieving this goal. We reviewed the whole portfolio, the whole chain. We were trying to find out where the greatest amounts of CO2 were generated. We found out that 70% of CO2 emissions in our company is generated by the production of raw material that we use for our production. This means we have to review cooperation with our suppliers. We are looking for new ways of working with our supplier. We are, for example, trying to promote new procedures in agriculture, such as increasing the water retention capacity of the soil, which also means that the soil can absorb greater amounts of CO2. We try to promote other non-traditional ways of agricultural activities. We are trying to review the situation in the Czech agriculture as a whole. The regenerative agriculture is not the only way. There are other ways, there are other possibilities, but we definitely think we have to make major changes in our supplier chain. This will mean greater investment as well. It has been mentioned in the previous panel already that the investment into CO2 reduction can be rather massive. Now, in Nestlé, we have reviewed our view of the investment return. What should be the return of the investment? I believe that most companies will say that they have certain deadlines by which the investment has to return. However, this whole approach has to be changed as well. Because, for example, when you invest into green energy, you don't get the return on the investment so quickly. However, if the investment contributes significantly to the reduction of CO2 emissions, you have to review your perspective of the return on the investment. So this is a very dynamic process, very live process. Now, the second pillar, it's about the young people and how to increase their competitiveness at the labor market. We can see now that the young graduates coming from the universities and from secondary schools will be a vulnerable group. They have no experience at all. We have been active in this area for quite some time. We have established the Alliance for the Young People, and we try to help the young people to gain them their first work experience, to help them with their entry to the labor market. Maybe one change, another change I should mention is another change of the direction in the future. We will need more and more people who really understand what sustainability means, what it is all about, and we will meet new people, young people, who can be actively involved in promoting the sustainability. So we really have to focus on this more and more. We have to accelerate our efforts in this field. And the last but not least, we are trying to take greater care of our employees. We try to provide them with the protective equipment. Right now, the big issue is compulsory testing for COVID. At the same time, we try to make sure our company is as inclusive as possible. We promote gender equality, equality between people from different groups, from different backgrounds. This is the also closely linked to the general approach of the company. We were also actively involved in helping people in the front line, helping their children in preschool institutions. We were trying to supply them with the necessary products. At the same time, we were actively involved in distribution of all kinds of products. And in this way, we were trying to help as much as possible. We closely cooperate with the food bank. We supply them regularly with products that are then given out to people in need. Now the demand for this food went up by 30%. More and more families cannot afford to buy food. Those are new families who never had these problems before. Yes, thank you very much for very interesting comments. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Kaspar from Coca-Cola Hellenic Bottling Company. I'm sure you will listen carefully to Mr. Ivan Tučník, who said that their plan is to have 25% of their products non-alcoholic. However, we do not want to focus on business aspects. We want to speak about corporate social responsibility aspects. So what do you do in this regard right now? Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to this interesting event. Well, when you said alcoholic, non-alcoholic, let me mention that in our company, we also supply some alcoholic products, actually. So that's just a little comment to begin with. As to the situation in the previous year, I think colleagues speaking before me already described the situation rather clearly. Now the situation changed dramatically. Some CSR priorities changed as well, and we were trying to follow the new situation, to respond to it, and We were trying to help the local communities in need. Now, of course, one priority were our employees. We were trying to protect the health and safety of our people, not only people in the manufacturing facilities, but also our dealers. We have some 500 people selling our products, so we've been trying to protect them as well. Then, similarly to what Martina said, we were also trying to get more involved in helping the hospitals and other facilities. At the same time, we were trying to look after our people working in the stores and in other facilities. If you remember last year, in April, some dramatic changes took place, and we were trying to make a gift to every person working at the cash desk at that time. So these were some major changes, and at the same time, what we did at that time, we reviewed all our priorities and changed some of them. We also established new long-term partnerships. For example, I would like to mention our partnership with the Red Cross. We've been helping them a lot. Then, as to our new priorities, I would like to mention one thing. It has been also mentioned by Martina, and that is giving greater support to the young people. Now, support to the young people became more and more important in 2020, especially as regards the young people from the disadvantaged background. Many young people started losing their jobs due to the COVID situation. So we've been trying to help them as well. Of course, in the trying to use the possibilities of the online environment. Now, what didn't change though, and this has been also already mentioned by my colleague from Pilsen Przdroj, is the following thing, which we always have had as a priority, is the corporate social responsibility on two pillars, namely protection of the environment and water resources. And the second priority is world without waste. That is waste mindfulness or awareness. Again, I'm really glad to say that already 1 year ago we opened the first fully automatic warehouse in Prague, Kiev. This project was not stopped or delayed in any way, because even though the supplier of the technology to this automatic warehouse is from Italy, actually, so at one point we were not even sure whether the supplier and their products could reach us. However, this project is very well underway, and it is a very important project for our company. It will really help us significantly with the transportation of our goods from the production to the distribution center. And as I mentioned, this storage, this warehouse will be fully automatic. I'm also happy to say that our priorities includes this other very interesting project, and it is the wetland project, which we have underway in Prague, Kiev as well. Now, this is a very interesting project. When we were modernizing our manufacturing facility, what we first had in mind was this traditional water retention container. However, in the end, it turned out that this would be actually more expensive than the wetland project. So we then decided to go for the wetland project, which is a very good project. It is cost effective, and it also helps to improve the climate in the district of Prague 14. So, in my opinion, the years 2020 and 2021 will be important milestones. These are years that help us realize what is really important for us and for the Czech society as a whole. Thank you very much, and I'm always happy to hear that some new innovative green solutions are actually even more cost-effective than the old traditional solutions. So thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to the last speaker, Mr. Petr Krivonoška from Fashion Arena Prague Outlet. Now, I assume you have been seriously affected by the COVID crisis. So how about CSR in your company? Yes, you are absolutely right. The situation is that we have been completely closed now for 3 months, and we are, let's say, the victim of the situation. Now, I myself have been responsible for the international tourism, and it was almost completely closed down already 1 year ago. However, on the other hand, this gave me great more time and space to focus on corporate social responsibility. So, the situation right now has 2 aspects. Yes, on one hand, it's a great barrier which prevents us from implementing some projects, but on the other hand, the COVID crisis is an opportunity for us. It's an opportunity to realize how serious the situation can become, not only in terms of the climate change crisis, but also how difficult it can be for our society. Now, we are members of the VIA outlet. For APG, we fall under the Dutch pension fund, pension society, and both of these companies put lots of pressure on promoting corporate social responsibility. They greatly promote it. So basically, they greatly support us in all our activities in this regard. On the other hand, right now the economic situation is difficult. We have been completely closed down and for quite some time, so we do not really have a possibility to implement our projects right now. Basically, what we try to do is to have a sustainable building, then motivated companies in our arena, then raising the awareness among customers and raising awareness among the local community. Well, as to the sustainable building, we can do something about it even though we are closed. We are trying to work on the certification for green buildings. We try to improve our rating from very good to excellent. We've been implementing some projects in this regard, such as preparing the photovoltaic systems or using the rainwater for plant watering. As to the engaged companies or engaged tenants, we have been very limited right now. We've been trying to motivate some companies, for example, to reduce their waste. And some of the companies in our facility are big international companies. They are very much aware of the situation. They are actively trying to reduce the amount of waste, for example. They are trying to reduce the energy consumption. They are trying to move in the same direction. At the same time, we have some smaller companies in our premises, for instance, small local brands, and they are not so aware of the situation. They do not have clear rules and they are not that active in this regard. So we are trying to help them. Let me mention another thing. As to the food and gastronomic sector, cafes, restaurants, and so on, we have prepared the little composting plant or composting facility on the premises that should help them to process the waste, and in this way they can generate clean food. It can be sufficient for restaurants. Thank you very much. Yeah, I would like to mention one more project, slightly smaller project, what we've been implementing right now. So, what we did, for example, we have changed all our washing substances. All the washing substances which we use on our premises are organic. Or another thing I would like to mention is the beehive project. Something that we have started on the premises, which could be even useful for our own trees. Yes, thank you very much. That was a very interesting presentation, and I gave you all this space to speak about your projects in great detail, because I must say my first assumption was that you were probably very limited right now. However, from what you say, I understand you still have the potential to do something about the building and all kinds of activities, no matter how strictly affected you have been by the current restrictions. Now, we have had many interesting topics here, and now I would like to follow up on two of these. So first, let me ask you, how do you improve your current relationship with your employees? Because on the previous fora, we were speaking about issues such as what can you do to help people on parental leave, or how to improve the situation for other groups of staff. However, right now the big issue is not only how do you keep a job for your people, but at the same time, what should you do to improve the mental health of your people and their general well-being? So that's one thing. And the second thing is the stakeholder dialogue. At the moment when the COVID crisis has been affecting everyone, everywhere, what are you trying to do to help your partners so that when the economy recovers, you can go at it at the full speed? Maybe first of all, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Tučník. What do you do to help your staff? Even though I believe you have mentioned some of your activities already, and you've been also helping your stakeholders, so give us your point of view.
So as for employees, we are working on two lines, so to say, because the situation very much differs for people in production, in the breweries, and on the other hand, those people that can work from home, that can be on home office. So I think we're not exceptional when it comes to home office. Basically, everybody who can work from home is on home office. It has its advantages, but it also has many specificities, specific features that we have to adapt to. So if I focus on that group of people, that group of employees, we do our best to keep them engaged. It is a lot about information provision, so informing people, because what we miss is the small talk that we normally have during breaks in the kitchen areas. So we need to provide information to where it needs to be. So it's not only about standard information that we had normally communicated before the pandemic, but also topical information about what is happening around us. Simply inform our employees so that they know what they should do, what they shouldn't do, how to cope with the pandemic, and so forth. So providing information, that's key. Communication. And one new measure that we introduced in the beginning of last year, and roughly in March last year, was an assistance program for our employees, be it mental guidance or legal counseling. So we also provide guidance concerning to lifestyle. So every employee has a right to consult with an expert in case they need it, in case they feel the need. And we also try to guide them through the situation. So starting in March last year, we started this guidance, and we organized various workshops and seminars that should help people adapt to the new conditions, be it distance working, home officing, what to do with people, what to do with kids when I have children and I have them at home on homeschooling, and at the same time I'm on home office. So we provide guidance to all of these issues. And when it comes to the second question, you've mentioned some of it, but still, do you have some positive programs towards your partners? We decided to strengthen our cooperation with the partners, our current partners, and not only partners in the area of responsibility, but also our business partners. We're very actively cooperating with the managers of pubs and restaurants. I've mentioned that already. So we have a very close cooperation with them. And when it comes to our partners from NGOs, we strengthened our cooperation in local communities, and we adapted the list of our programs, community programs, to be easy to implement and also to focus more on what people need at this given moment in this situation. And we also added new partnerships that are 100% related to combating the current pandemic. And let me mention one topic which is relatively new to us, but it stems from what we do. Combating loneliness, because mental health is not only important for our employees, it's one of the major topics that we deal with, but there are communities, there are groups of people in the society that were most hit by the pandemic, and sometimes they're forgotten. I'm speaking specifically about senior citizens. So we started cooperating with a number of organizations. We support volunteers in this area, and we started a number of joint projects to help senior citizens, especially those that live in senior citizens' homes or various facilities. So we try to make their lives easier and more pleasant, and to make them feel that they're not alone in this situation. We try to make it easier for them to cope with this, cope with all this. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, because the whole scope of responsibility widens in the times of crisis like this one. Let me ask Mr. Kaspar. I suppose that you follow similar route as Mr. Tučník, but do you have, let's say, a specific project or experience that you would like to present? Well, when it comes to assistance and help to our stakeholders, I'd like to mention, first of all, our customers and the local communities. Well, customers, that's one of the groups that we closely cooperate with throughout the year. And we prepared a number of webinars throughout the year. And our lawyers helped explain to these people, for example, various new government measures, because it may happen that the managers in pubs and restaurants do not have comprehensive information, or they do not fully understand it, or they don't know what to do with it. So our lawyers explained it to them through webinars. And we also do the same thing now as the reopening of their operations is coming close. We try to help them prepare for that and also help them find their way around through various assistance programs of the government. We help them provide for health and safety in their operations, for their employees, and also for their customers. We have our specific program focusing on young people, and that program goes hand in hand with another program. For example, the program focusing on young people, we're preparing 2 webinars. The first one will be for the managers of HoReCa, which will be hiring quite soon. They will have to hire new people, and we have to presume that many of the people that had to leave this sector will not want to come back. So we will have to hire new people. And we also want to then help and support the newly hired employees so that they know how to serve customers, how to serve the guests, so that the guests are happy. And also in our sales department, we're preparing a number of incentives programs, loyalty programs to help our customers. So there are also local communities that we try to help. I've already mentioned hospitals and the Red Cross, but there is a local community in Prague 14 where we have one production operation, and in Bromov area where we have another production operation. So throughout the pandemic, we've been in close touch with Prague 14 town hall and also with the municipalities in the Bromov area, Bromov region. And we often discussed with them what we could do, whether there's anything they need from us, how we could help. You may remember that over the summer, the Bromov region also suffered from torrential rain, and they had problems with the quality of water in local wells. So all of that even worsened the already bad situation and bad year. So we did our best to be in touch with the mayors of the local communities, local municipalities, and we plan to continue doing that. So these are maybe 2 aspects of communicating with employees and communities. So we still have about a minute or 2, so maybe let me give the floor to Martina Šilhanová and ask whether you started a new partnership as well in this crisis situation. I remember you mentioned your support to the food bank, but there will be others, I believe. Well, I will not repeat what my colleagues have said. We have similar projects as they do, but I must say I'm really proud of our employees, of my colleagues, because we opened a number of calls for collecting resources amongst our employees. So in the beginning of the pandemic, last year in March, we collected money for senior citizens' homes so that they can raise the quality of of health care for the sick clients of the senior citizens' homes. And that collection lasted for maybe 2 weeks, but we gathered hundreds of thousands of crowns, and I'm really grateful for that and happy for that. We also tried to change the procedures and processes in our company to minimize food waste. So those food products and foodstuffs, if it was at least possible to donate it to the food bank, we did it. And we also asked our colleagues from the marketing department to support us. So in December, within 3 weeks, we delivered 20 tons of foodstuffs to the Prague food bank. And it was a large gift, a large donation for them. And we also responded to the government appeal just before Christmas when the situation was getting worse. And we started tracking. So we have some 20 colleagues that are involved in tracking. So they sit on the phone and call colleagues that were in risk contact with people that proved to be COVID positive. So it is a tough job. You have to be on the phone. You have to cope with responses from the colleagues that are frustrated, that do not know what to do. So you act as a psychologist to some extent. And I'm really grateful and proud of my colleagues because that kind of work is very demanding. They have to be very flexible. And as we've heard before, even our colleagues need mental support, and we do that. We provide that to our employees, to our colleagues when they need it. Well, thank you. Thanks for describing all that. Well, who would think a year ago that a company in the food business will be a part of the critical tracking infrastructure? But we're all doing what we can. Well, thank you very much. That's the end of this panel. So many thanks to Martina Šilhánova, Ivan Tučník, Jan Kašpar, and Petr Křivonoška. Thank you for being on this panel and sharing your experience and showing that despite the pandemic, you not only you don't give up your CSR activities, but you even expand them further. So good luck to all of you. Thank you. And all that's left is the final summary that is up to me. I'm really glad that we've managed to offer to you a discussion on the topic of sustainability and to offer various perspectives to you. We had a representative of the European Commission, of the UN, of the Ministry of Environment, and many companies. I hope that all those companies that will want to tap into various subsidy funds listened carefully. We also have representatives of the capital city of Prague and specifically also Prague 6, the mayor of Prague 6. But the highlight of this morning were the panel discussions. So I'm really grateful that we had a chance to discuss with top managers of many companies what they do in these difficult times, and I'm glad that we could hear that they don't resign on their CSR activities. And I haven't even heard any one of you doubting, for example, the climate goals. All of you, even those representing the energy companies, were saying that you have no doubts and that we have to achieve these objectives. The sooner the better. And I'm also glad that we could have the second discussion panel, which was a bit more specific compared to the first one, which was more general. In the second panel, we shared specific experience presented by the representatives of companies, what they can do. For example, if they have an empty call center, they can offer it for public purpose. In this case, tracking infected people. So I'm happy that companies do not resign on their responsibility, and rather the opposite, they even widen it, extend it. So what's next? What's in front of us? The UP 2021 Forum team showed a lot of interest, and people are also interested in the upcoming events, for example, roundtables called Responsible Czech Republic. So please apply if you want to be a part of our call, Responsibly 2030. Please register. If you want to share your experience within your sector or even outside of your sector, please do it. You can find all information on the web pages of Business for Society. So when it comes to our next events organized by Business for Society, on the 11th of March, as the International Women's Day, we organize an event for our members and signatories. We also will have a 5th annual conference called Mothers and Fathers Welcome. We also prepare events in the context of the months of the diversity months. And also volunteering, corporate volunteering, that's another topic that is running and that needs to be further developed and expanded. We've heard from our guests and panelists what can be done. So once again, on the 11th of March, Give and Gain. That's an event that can support volunteering. And again, you can find more information and details on our webpage. The Diversity Day is planned for the 21st of May. So that's all from me. Many thanks to all of you. Thanks to the whole team of Business for Society for organizing the UP 2021. And last but not least, let me give the floor to David Attenborough and his mission presented at COP 2026.
The value we place on a stable natural world will ultimately determine its future. Do we invest money in the practices that take us deeper into this crisis, or in the solutions that could get us out of it?
Other CIO told me our job is to save money, not to save the planet. But I counter-argue, saying like, what's the point of receiving a pension when our children cannot even play outside? Nobody told me how to hedge the risk like a climate change. So I thought that we have to take a totally different approach. So the philosophy behind everything we do is the long-term investment and the universal ownership. For the capital market to be sustainable, environment must be sustainable.
The financial sector is an enormously powerful and effective force and can be a force for good.
We can all do something. Questioning conventional wisdom, the way things have been done, shouldn't that be doubted?